Hi, so congratulations first. I know this has been a really big semester. I feel it like you do, and Anna does, and I know for those of you in Friday's class, Matt also does. It's um, it's been interesting pandemic teaching and learning, very different from, I guess, within. I'm going to use different language within COVID-19 when I think we understood um, the needs of health, maybe a little bit better of well-being, and I think there was some better care for each other than I guess what I'm feeling this semester. This semester, I know for you, has been really, I guess it has felt rushed in moments, maybe slow in others. The pandemic has impacted on your placements, it's impacted on your own health, it's impacted on your families, it's impacted on your mental well-being, it's impacted on your finances. I know all of that is really weighty, and I am definitely feeling that. So I wanted to do a video feedback to wrap up semester one, having tied up our assessment for those of you who have managed to get the task in on time. You'll note that I kept this till late because I wanted you to be able to really explore what it is that you have learnt in all of your subjects. But I guess why I chose to do this on video is I guess I feel in some of the tasks that they're a little bit rushed, and instead of thinking with what you've done for the whole of semester, not all of you have done that. So the way that this subject, visual art and design, has been designed is to allow you to wrap in what it is that you already are as a practitioner into new ways of knowing through pedagogy and through our own field, which is, a little bit hard to get used to because it's quite philosophical, because that's art and design. That's how we practice. We practice as people concerned with the world, concerned about being in the world, concerned about sustainability and climate crisis. We care about Roe versus Wade. So what does that mean in a classroom? It means that we have our own expertise as art and design educators, not just teachers of art and design. Now, that might have been something slippery at the start of the semester, but I hope that as the semester has gone on, you have felt that that's quite a radical difference, and that our radical pedagogies actually enable you to deal with change and crisis and care and kindness. And some of you have done that absolutely outstandingly in your lesson plans. The other thing that I really want to develop in you are your digital literacies and digital capabilities, because that's what's needed in schools to help teachers survive long days, long aspects of administration, caring for kids, the multiplicities of a day filled with at least 120 actions. And how we do that is that we learn through reflective practice to use our digital technologies. Some of you are still getting used to that. There's a few uploads of PDFs into digital spaces. Now, as a teacher, I don't want you to do that because kids shouldn't have to download something that you can design in a page. So we're using PebblePad. There's a module in the Canvas classroom. That module will come across. Please go back to it if you don't know how to do something, and please use the affordances of technologies. How do I teach through multimodalities? How do I teach with film and sound? These things are present in your lesson plans, so that means you need to learn how to practice with them. How do I make a video about an artist? What if I just grabbed an artwork and I start talking to it as a video? It's actually a great thing to quickly show to kids. The reason multimodal and digital artifacts are important is that I can return to them. So like those of you who asked me to return to the recorded lecture, it's the same thing. You want your kids in your class to be able to return to the knowledge, return to ideas. And I might have missed that, and I want to go back to how Miss or Sir talked about it. How do we use those technologies? for the affordances provided us in PebblePad. First bit of feedback, use PebblePad properly. Use it for what it provides you. Use it for multimodal digital pages that next year will be inside your VIT registered ePortfolio. Portfolio pedagogies is how I'm teaching you. Reflective practice in Padlet, reflective practice through lesson planning and observation, then goes into the way that we design our assessment. We also design each week in relation to each task, just what we were looking for in the unit plans and the lesson plans. How do I use assessment as learning or for learning or of learning? And how do I ensure that my learning intentions, my learning outcomes, my content, and my assessment are aligned? That means they're connected to each other. So you need to know what the lesson is going to achieve. And this is my bit of feedback too that I really want to come out of semester 1. There's a difference between being a student in your class and being a learner in your class. There's a couple of you still being students in our class. How do you become an engaged learner? What do you need to do? And I know the cognitive load of the beginning of a master's. I also know the strain and stress that some of you are also under financially to have to work a lot. So how in semester 2 do we try and find a balance for that? Because every workshop, every seminar, every reading, every Padlet reflection is all in the assessment task. The ways that we started designing lessons, the ways we started designing unit plans, we've been doing all of this along the way. So when you fall down, you go back to that stuff. If you get lost, ask me a question. Ask Anna a question. Ask your colleagues questions. Don't submit something if you've still got questions. Because I can feel in some of these tasks, not everybody grasped all the little intricacies, and then they don't happen. Third bit of feedback. What does it mean to be an educator in art and design? What does it mean to learn about the world in art and design education? And how can we use that to develop a framework for ourselves? I gave you this as feedback in assessment task 1 as well, because I really wanted you to think about using PebblePad as a digital artifact to think with and through the ideas of curriculum to demonstrate your pedagogical content knowledge. What some of you really insightfully picked up on in that task is that curriculum is a series of complex ideas that enables you as a teacher to bring your content to. So what does it mean for you going forward? It means that you can be as creative and radical practitioner as you want to be. But you just need to learn to design it within constraints of time and constraints of ideas. But blow them open and do wonderful things, because what's in these lesson plans is awesome. Number 3, PebblePad is a tool for you. It's an ePortfolio site, a digital environment to help you build an ecology of evidence. So when you're building an evidence assessment task, because I do assessment as learning, that means we're folding like the Schitt's Creek cheese each week into the aspect of the assessment task required. The learning intentions are aligned. So how do you use PebblePad to do that? How do you use a digital assessment framework to build an evidence collection? It also means that you need to have a think about what assessment means, and we're going to spend a lot of time on that in semester 2. But assessment is evidence of learning. An assessment demonstrates to an examiner, if we want to use that term, or to an assessor, what it is that you know. Now, some of you are designing assessment for yourselves, what it is that you know. But in an assessment task, you have to show me what you know. And you have to tell it to me really clearly, because it's now not an object for you, it's an object for me as an assessor. And you're going to have to teach this to kids. And it's a really important thing to teach in Year 9 and Year 10 and then at VCE. How do I show you and tell you what it is that I know? I have to use appropriate language. I have to use, in some instances, scholarship and references. I have to be able to have a theoretical underpinning, particularly at master's level. But I have to use visual cues and signs to show the reader how to engage with something. So if I didn't use PebblePad and I just uploaded 2 tasks, or if I didn't use the affordance of PebblePad and I just have 2 individual digital pages without a summary page, which you can do. Remember, you have autonomy as a student. How do I be a learner and engage with practice in a different way? I'm giving that to you. I want you to think about the ways, and we're going to talk about it when we come back. And the big idea I want us to come back and talk about is the impact of the pandemic on education, because I think that you are in the midst of it as teacher candidates. You are seeing it in schools. You are seeing the pressures and stress on teachers. And I want us to work out how to navigate that together. I want to be able to support you to work out what that might look like and to learn to do some things differently together, because we've done our front loading. You know, we know now from this assessment that you know what art and design education is. You know what your curriculum is. You're beginning to see how to engage with it and how to tie it to aspects of who you are and what you know. The next bit is the bigger deep dive into how we assess student learning at school. I guess the last thing I just wanted you to have a think about is why we started the semester with pedagogical content knowledge and why we finished it with demonstrating it in lesson plans. Because these 2 tasks built upon each other. The pedagogical content knowledge was important at the beginning, and we wanted to see it in this task. What is your pedagogy? What kind of teacher are you, and what does it look like in a classroom that's inclusive? How do I choose artworks that are responsive to the climate? And that doesn't just mean the Anthropocene climate, but the climate, the global political climate, the socio-cultural climate. And most of you have done that really well. I would probably say all of you have done that really well. But telling us what you know in the lesson plan is important. Show that in certain aspects of the design. I think it's great for your mentor to see that too. You don't need to use words like pedagogical content knowledge. We need to see it. If you are an inclusive pedagogy of care designer, then what does that look like when I open the classroom up? And many of you designed that into a lesson. How the ways that you talk to students and invite them into ideas together, the ways you set up collaboration and sharing points. So, scholarship that underpins doesn't always have to be referenced, particularly in a task like the lesson plans. For those of you who did it, it was fantastic to see. If you didn't do it, we do need to be able to know it in a sense. So how do you create an opportunity for doing that? Last big idea I just want you to think about is, what's the difference between a studio, a classroom, school, and education? And what do these sites afford? And how can we think bigger about learning in each of these spaces in semester 2? I hope you get a break. I hope you get to rest your brains. I know I want to do that to mine. I hope you get to sit with your thinking about lesson planning, about unit planning, about teaching, about learning, about practice, about threshold concepts, about taxonomies, and relate them into art and design education ready for semester 2.